What the hell was this? Guys, I've read some bad comics and thereby some not so great crossovers in my time. But this one really takes the cake. Oh my god. What the hell was this? Oh, wow. I don't even know where to start. Well, I guess I should start. This is called, this is going to be my review of Terminator Robocop Kill Human, which is the second Robocop Terminator crossover. The first was done back in the early to mid, no, yeah, early 90s, yeah. Early 90s Robocop vs. Terminator, which was done by Frank Miller with art by Walt Simonson. And to that extent, it's not a bad crossover. It's not a bad comic at all. I mean, it's not one of Frank Miller's shining moments, but it's not crazy Uncle Frank we're dealing with here. And Walt Simonson's artwork is really good. So, yeah, this is when Dynamite had the rights to both Terminator and Robocop, and they were like, hey, let's capture Lightning twice, and we'll get Rob Williams to write the comic. You guys remember Rob Williams? Yeah, that guy has if you've read his comic book stuff, then you know he doesn't have a lot of good to him. He doesn't have a lot of good to his name. So yeah, this is his Robocop Terminator crossover, also 4 issues, and I don't even know where to start. I will also like to add that there hasn't been a really, shining good Terminator crossover. There hasn't been, the ones that come to mind, and we've only had a few Terminator crossovers. It was this one, the Frank Miller one also with Robocop, the crossover Superman, yeah, that's a thing, the crossover with Alien and Predator, and the crossover with Painkiller Jane. So we've had about 5 total. And I admittedly haven't read the Terminator Painkiller Jane crossover. So I can't really specify on that, but from the crossovers I've read with Terminator in them, yeah, they're not great. There hasn't been a really good Terminator crossover. And I mean, the only ones that really stand out is the Frank Miller one, but that's not saying much. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's just okay. But this is the bottom of the totem pole. And after 2.5 minutes, because I don't even know what to say to this, so let's get into this. So here's the review. So the comics start. Also, what's interesting is you may be asking yourself, hey, is this like a sequel to Robocop vs. Terminator? No, it's not. And this comic, even I thought that when I was starting to read it. So this comic starts off with similar to Robocop vs. Terminator, in that it's the last of mankind, and this woman called Lauren finds this Skynet museum with Alex Murphy in it. She reactivates Murphy, but Murphy gets taken over by Skynet, and he kills her. And also, I'm going to spoil the shit out of this comic, just on the sole grounds of you shouldn't pick this up. So, stay tuned. Because you're going to want to listen to this. So, yeah, so Murphy, after he finds out a way to harness time travel, he goes back in time to 1992. He goes back to 1992, and he goes right into Judgment Day, and proceeds to be like, his plan is, just in the name of this girl named Lauren, who I only met for like 15 minutes before Skynet made me kill her, I'm going to wipe out all of Skynet's, I'm going to wipe out all of Skynet. So he starts by and to its credit, this crossover does something that the Frank Miller crossover didn't do, which is actually have Terminator, the T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator team up with, well, not team up, but actually meet Robocop. And the fight's boring as shit. It's not only that, this artwork, this comic is it's almost written like, I had to do a double take to see the writing on this is Rob Williams and not crazy Uncle Frank, because there is just some really bad dialogue, like current Frank Miller bad dialogue, or should I say holy terror level dialogue in here, and the artwork is trying really hard to be Walt Simonson. It's really trying to capture the Robocop versus Terminator vibe, and it fails on every level, because the artwork in here, I'm going to just say it right now, it's bad. It's just really god-awful. I mean, I understand that, yeah, people can't, due to rights, the artists can't make these faces look exactly like who they're supposed to be, because we do get, John Connor, we do get Sarah in here, but they don't look, but it's not even that, they just look, really bad. Everyone's faces looks like putty. And the angles are just off on so many levels. Like, you don't, you know, there are so many times in here where, like, everyone's face is just completely distorted in every case. The other thing is that, in here, is that this is only 4 issues, and they try to cram so much into 4 issues. Much like that other crossover that one guy who did Dark Knight Returns did. But yeah, so the comic continues on from after Murphy defeats the T-800. Oh, that's going to piss some people off, because it drops you right in the, like, the 3rd act of Judgment Day. He takes out the T-800 and takes John and Sarah, claiming that, oh, I'm going to show you guys a better life. When in reality, he doesn't, and he's just using John as bait to catch the T-1000. And the T-1000, to its credit, is, like, still treated like a force, but not by, like, a force of nature, but not by much. We also get the Ed 209s in here. There's also abundance of swearing in here. Like, even for a Frank Miller comic, like, if this was a Frank Miller comic, Frank would go, alright, you're just trying to be edgy. Because there are so many lines in here that are just so goddamn awkward. Like, when Murphy, at the start of this comic, wakes up a Ed 209 to protect Lauren, the woman goes, man, I fuck with that big motherfucking tank. And I'm like, okay, alright. Like, yeah, it's almost like Rob Williams couldn't just, like, he was so excited to write a comic that he could actually swear in. You know, he could actually do swear words in, and they just feel so awkward. And I understand that, yeah, there was swearing, and, you know, both Terminator and Robocop franchises had abundance of swearing, but, yeah, it just goes way overboard in some cases. Like, there are just some lines where it's like John goes, hey, you know, fuck your mother. And I'm like, okay, I know John would say something like that, but this is totally not the time for it. And yeah, we all, you know, so the comic, if you're wondering how this all ends, ooh, oh wow. Because if, you know, it doesn't just completely shit on, you know, one of the best movies of all time. It pretty much goes as followed. Before he time traveled to find John and Sarah, Murphy goes to Dick Jones from Omni Consumer Corporation, and he helps make OCPD. He makes OCP, excuse me. He makes OCP with Dick Jones from the movie, and basically helps him get into power by giving him the schematics to the Ed 209. He becomes the head of that corporation, and in turn, Dick helps him find John and Sarah and help try to protect them from the T-1000. So, but that plan goes all awry when the T-1000 shows up in the middle of a Omni Consumer Corporation naval fleet. Yeah, that's a thing. Although that doesn't surprise me, considering, you know, that they had military contracts in the movie, so I'm gonna let that one slide. But yeah, T-1000 shows up, and Murphy uses John and Dick as bait, and yeah, T-1000 kills John. Like, it straight out showed, there's a whole page of the T-1000 decapitating John for all to see. Yeah, that's the I was already, like, not okay with this comic. I mean, at the start of it, I was like, oh, you know, maybe it can work itself out of the hole it dug. No, it found a way to dig deeper every issue. And like I said, it's 4 issues long, but they find a way to, you know, they try to do so much in so little time. Yeah, this is just garbage, guys. This comic, I can't even form words. I've read some really bad crossovers, but I always try to find a way to find some redeeming quality in some cases. And admittedly, you know, the one thing I'll give it is that this did something that the Miller Robocop Terminator crossover didn't do, which is actually have Murphy actually meet the T-800, you know, and there was a meeting between them. There was also, well, technically he did fight T-800s. I'll take that back, but it wasn't it wasn't Schwarzenegger T-800. And it actually had him face off with the T-1000 badly. But yeah, it doesn't, you know, man, on just that alone, everything else, the art, the writing, just how it shits on Judgment Day to an nth degree, like, almost like it's mean about it. The other thing, like, There's also a few times where Sarah and John's hair color keeps switching it multiple times. Just wanted to throw that out there to add to, just to say that, oh yeah, the art's really bad, guys. Guys, I got this for $5, just out at the convention I was at, where I also got Fire and Stone and G.I. Joe X Street Fighter, as well as a few other a few other comics. But yeah, if I'd have spent any if I had spent like more than what I had, oh, I'd have been mad. $5, and even $5 is kind of generous. Don't get this. Just don't. Just no. I don't. You know, there's always like even with Tarzan versus Predator. I don't really necessarily like that comic, but I find some good things about it. I do have some interesting things about it, but it's not one of my favorites. Like I said, I always try to find good things about some of these crossovers. Not today. No. Absolutely frickin' not. And I know I'm just ranting and raving at this point, but I'm like, I need to tell you guys, this comic was hot fucking garbage. Don't get this. Just don't. Not even for $5. So there you go, guys. There's my review. Fuck this book. Just fuck it.